Hey everyone, welcome to the results video of the 12th ride recreation contest, the Ferris Wheel contest. Now, I can't believe this is already the 12th round, which means we've already had a year of ride creation contests. Now, I absolutely love all of the creations that you guys make, and this contest was no exception. So yeah, in this round everybody had to make a custom Ferris wheel. They could not use the one that comes in game. It's way too small. And I really like when people create their own. So that was the objective in this round. I also really like when people make custom Ferris wheels in their parks, in other contests. So like I said, there were 22 entries this round, so let's go and check out the one that got in last place. And then we'll continue on until we reach the winner of the round. Alright, in last place we have this entry from The Ironics. Overall I do like the look of this park. It has some nice colors. I do advise people to use a little bit more than 2 colors in the park. It usually makes it look a lot better. For the Ferris wheel, the colors are nice, but one thing that's a bit lacking, I think, is some supports to actually keep it up in the air. Now it looks like the wheel is actually floating, or maybe it's actually floating in the water. I don't really know. But yeah, with some supports it would have definitely been better. Other than that, some things the people complained about was that several of the rides are actually still in test run. For example, we have the launch bay here. Well, it's the launched freefall tower. I do like that it uses the rotor-drop vehicles. And we also have the top spin, which is simply called top spin 1. So yeah, definitely when you make a park, you should really give your rides some cool names, and definitely make sure that they are opened and so that guests can actually ride them. It will definitely improve your scores. Another thing that you can do in Open Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, for example, here you see an area that's outside the park. In Open Roller Coaster Tycoon you can go into the tile inspector and select one of these tiles which has the park fences on it, and then you select the surface and then you can remove the park fences, and then the park fences become invisible. I usually don't really like these standard park fences, so usually I just make sure I own the entire park so that there's just one tile left, and then with Tile Inspector you can simply remove the fences. And then you can make your own park fences for the outside, or just fill the map completely. That's your choice. But yeah, it generally looks better than keeping the default fences. Okay, in 21st place we have this entry from Artemis. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I really like this Mario pixel art. That looks pretty cool. For the Ferris wheel, something many people comment on was that the Ferris wheel is actually more egg-shaped than circular. It kind of is like that. So yeah, that's a little bit weird. Something else, obviously, when you make a Ferris wheel, usually it will look nicer if it has some sort of spokes. They won't rotate with the wheel, but just it makes it look like the wheel is actually supported a bit. Right now the cars are just floating in the air. Let me quickly make it sunny again. There are some other rides on the plot. Thing is with these rides is that they are very compact and they just sit in their little area. So we have this ride over here, and the go-kart ride over here, and if you make one of your rides in these contests very compact, they just sit there in their little area, and they don't add to the overall park. So some improvement could have probably been made there. Some things that I do really like is you can see these green horses here. This is meant to represent Yoshi. That's quite funny. And I also really like how Artemis made these Goombas using these, what are they? The Cyclops ride. I guess it's a bumper car ride from one of the expansion sets. You never see anyone use this, so that the art style is quite weird, but I think they're really convincing as Goombas. So yeah, I really like that. Okay, in 20th place we have this entry from Birjan. Birjan made this big wheel here on a pier. Well, yeah, some complaints that I saw about this wheel. It's actually rotating quite fast. Probably the chain lift speed could have been set a little bit lower. And also it has quite a big gap between the first and the last car. When you make a custom Ferris wheel and you have this gap, it's usually best to just try and change the track layout a little bit. Maybe make it a little bit bigger or smaller, just so you could try to fit an extra car or one car less, just so that the gap is smaller. Because right now it's quite obvious, and that's probably not something you want. Something else you should be really careful with is when you place objects underwater. Well, you can probably see it here sometimes, is that the water surface becomes really glitchy. You can see the water disappear sometimes. So yeah, when you place objects underwater, you should go in Tile Inspector, select the objects and just place them under surface. Yeah, it may take quite a while, especially if you have placed many objects underwater, but yeah, it is the way to prevent this glitching. It gets really annoying sometimes. Other than that, there's a little town here with some nice colorful buildings. Yeah, another thing you should be careful with is when you have these colored walls. There's actually two types of colored walls. So one is, so we have this one, the wall here and the wall here. This one's a bit more wide. It looks, the surface looks a bit more rough, and this one more, yeah, has like a pattern on it. You should always be careful when mixing these two. You can maybe see it on this green wall over here. So yeah, there's some random patches of one kind of wall and some patches of the other kind of wall. You should be careful with mixing those. For the buildings, well, yeah, when you make these buildings, it's usually a good idea to vary the kind of windows that you use a bit. Maybe try to make the roof look a little bit more interesting. It's kind of bland now, the buildings, but I have to say I do like the colors of it. But yeah, the shapes are not really convincing. For example, we can see a supermarket here, but you can actually see the grass through the windows. So yeah, when you want to make buildings, on my Discord we have the Swag Shack channel, and yeah, it's just full of nice examples for buildings without using custom scenery. So yeah, you should definitely take a look there if you need inspiration for buildings. There's some great examples that you can try to recreate. Okay, here we have the entry from Nomos. Well, first of all, I really like this water coaster that Nomos made. Yeah, it goes up vertically here, and then it does this dip in the water here, I guess. Then here there's a helix, and then finally at the end there's an actual water section. The wheel itself, it appears to be only supported on one side. But yeah, since it's shorter here, I guess maybe this could actually work. Something I didn't really like about this Ferris wheel was the spokes are straight here, but here at the bottom they're actually bent, probably to prevent them from clipping with the cars here. But yeah, then probably it would have been maybe a better idea to actually place the spokes a little bit higher, because these bent spokes, they look a little bit uncanny. Yeah, I really like this support structure for the water coaster. That's pretty cool. Other than that, there's also some nice buildings around the plot. So overall, I think this is a pretty decent entry. So nice job. Alright, here we have the entry from Scottish Novice. It's a huge Ferris wheel. The Ferris wheel actually has sort of a snow and ice theme. Some snow and ice scattered throughout the plot. Well, yeah, at first glance, I think this would have been a lot nicer if it had more snow throughout the plot. But yeah, that's just what I think. I must say I do really like the different buildings throughout the plot. I mean, there's a nice variation of windows and shapes. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, the Ferris wheel. I think it could have used some extra spokes actually. Probably some vertical ones would have been nicer. And since this wheel is so massive, the spokes probably could have also been a little bit thicker. With a different track type, I think they would have been a little bit better. I do think the supports for this wheel are quite interesting. It uses these snowballs in this nice sort of inverted L shape. At least it makes the Ferris wheel look pretty interesting. When you make a Ferris wheel that's this big, it is kind of difficult to make it actually look circular. So yeah, as you can see here, it maybe looks a little bit more like an octagon. But yeah, that's just you cannot get it more circular than this probably if you make it this big. So yeah, overall I think it's a nice job. Okay, here we have the entry from Jens J. He made this boat over here. Actually, the Ferris wheel here is embedded into the boat. I actually think most people thought the Ferris wheel was actually a bit small. But yeah, the boat actually, yeah, it's small, but the Ferris wheel is here in a nice setting. Because I think this boat looks pretty nice. It is a bit blocky. Maybe could have used some maybe some monorails to actually make it more curvy. But yeah, I must say this wooden track also works for me. There's also some other nice buildings over here. One thing you should be really careful with if you make buildings is well, using too many of these Georgian wall pieces. I'm not sure if I can find them. Oh yeah, they're over here. I think the problem with these wall pieces is that they're yeah, completely in one color. So yeah, there's no depth or any structure to them. And I think that makes them look really bland. And it's difficult to make your buildings look interesting with those. So yeah, that's also what many people commented on in these buildings. The walls are just bland because they're just one color. So yeah, you should really avoid using these Georgian wall pieces. Maybe you can mix and match them in other buildings just to add an extra window between them, but you should be really careful with using those. Many of the expansion scenery items just aren't very good or very useful, and yeah, really be careful with these. But yeah, other than that, I absolutely love how Jens made these roads. They're done incredibly well. So yeah, they're just basically these blocks with paths overlaid over them, and yeah, it works really well. It's really convincing. So yeah, really nice job on that. Alright, here we have the entry from Kanaifa. So yeah, Kanaifa made a really small Ferris wheel. That's also probably why people ranked it quite lowly. But I actually really like this Ferris wheel. Because even while it's small, it's executed really well in my opinion. I really like the way the supports are done. It's really convincing. I really like the structure of it, and also the colors work really well. And I absolutely love these fences around the queues. They are done really well. Also, all these buildings, yeah, you can probably find a lot of buildings like this in the Swag Shack. Just look at them; they all have really nice, interesting shapes. They're really nice to look at. So yeah, that's why I think this park just works. Um, it's just very scenic, and I really like it. So there's a nice drop tower here. I love seeing people build those after I made one in my mega park. Maybe they were also in several of the other entries already. But yeah, I do see a lot of these lately, and I really like seeing those. Alright, so yeah, I really like this entry. I'm sad that it scored so low, but yeah, I'm not the only one who has to vote on these parks. So yeah, great entry. Okay, here we have the entry from Trumavarium. Yeah, this park is absolutely filled with interesting stuff. Really nice buildings everywhere. And of course in the middle there's this Ferris wheel. And there's actually another Ferris wheel in the park as well, which is called Floating Duck. So yeah, he actually used a shoestring for his ride. It's actually following the first car now, which is somewhere underground. And with the shoestringing, somehow he also created this spacing between the cars. To be honest though, I think the Ferris wheel actually doesn't need the spacing. It probably would have been better, in my opinion, if the cars were actually right after one another. Just because now there's all these, there's these gaps between the car, and because there's no outside, there's no rail here. It just doesn't look very convincing to me. It probably needed a rail here, which the cars would be attached to. But yeah, the best would have probably just been to have no spacing between the cars. In my opinion, of course. I also really like this ride that's made here. It's not actually functioning. The guests are actually queuing for a dummy ride, probably one that's under here or one that's invisible. But yeah, I do really like that effect, because it looks now like the guests are actually queuing for this ride over here. The merry-go-round also is pretty cool. I kind of like this roof above it. Even a little disco ride. The floating duck. I think here the spacing actually does work. There's even a duck-hating pirate here stationed in the middle. It's pretty cool. Another one of these drop tower rides, or maybe it's a launched one. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's a drop tower ride. Pretty cool. And here's another ride. This one isn't actually shoestringed. It just does a little circular circuit here with the cars spinning around. So yeah, this entry is just full of cool rides. Except I was a little bit disappointed with the Ferris wheel and the spacing. But overall, this is a really nice entry. Alright, here we have the entry made by Walibier. Of course, the first thing you can see here is the backdrop of the park. And I really love this backdrop. I think it's really creative. It's not something you see very often. Actually, I'm not sure if we ever saw this in one of the contest entries. I also love this plane that he parked on the backdrop with a banner, subscribe to Walibier and Deurklink. I approve of that. And of course, there's this pier full of rides, and of course there's this big bone-shaped Ferris wheel. A bone-shaped Ferris wheel, that's strange. The shape it originally had, let's just say the bottom half was the same, except it was rounded off here at the top, and it was big and pink. It's probably not something you would show to your kids. So I asked him to actually change it, and then he turned it into this. I guess you could still call it a boner, something like that. What many people commented on was actually that it's full of expansion scenery. You should really be careful with using expansion scenery, especially if it's the animated ones. For example, these fences here on the side of the piers. I don't really think they look realistic. They're very big and tall. I mean, these poles for the fence are twice the size of a guest. I think the scaling of these fences is just way off. It's just not something you would see so big in a real park. Um, Also, these animated skeletons, I'm not sure about them. Although right here it does look like they're shown on a screen, so I guess there maybe it could actually work. Also, there's some other interesting rides here, and yeah, there's also one of these Duck Hunt arcade games, which you see quite often in these contest entries these days. I really like them. It's like one of those shooting games where you have to try to shoot one of the ducks. And of course, there's these sunbeds here on the beach. I think it's probably better to use the car ride for this. Let me see if I can change it into that. Arbitrary ride types. A car ride. I think that looks way more convincing as a sunbed. But yeah, to each their own. But yeah, I think this is a very interesting entry. I also really love the cars going around in front of this backdrop. So yeah, really unique entry for sure. Alright, here in 13th place we have this entry made by Greenfielder. Greenfielder made this very interesting Ferris wheel shape, also with observation tower in the middle. There is a big noticeable gap in between the cars, and I'm not really sure if these colors actually work. So yeah, the Ferris wheel was a bit of a letdown for me, but the rest of the park is just filled to the brim with rides and buildings. Even some of the rides go underground. There's even a big parking garage here. Also very interesting underground section. It's a ghost train here. I think this for me is the highlight of the park. So yeah, I just wish more of the park actually looked like this, because this part is really great. Also, this part is actually quite interesting. Again, some of the animated expansion item scenery objects. But yeah, these robots, I think they're actually quite funny. You shouldn't overuse these expansion items. Also, these cars, if you compare these cars to the size of a guest, they're just way too large. So often you're just best off putting cars from the car ride and park those on a piece of invisible track. It usually looks a lot better than using these expansion cars, in my opinion. Also a little roller coaster here. So yeah, absolutely love the most of the stuff in the park, especially these underground sections. But the Ferris wheel was a bit of a disappointment for me. Okay, in 12th place we have this entry from Left-Handed Coffee Mug. He made this really interesting Ferris wheel in the side of a hotel. I think this Ferris wheel is situated here in the hotel really nicely. I think that works pretty well. Well, one thing you can also see, by the way, is the colors. Left-Handed Coffee Mug made a palette especially for this contest. I think it's a sunset palette, so basically everything is a little bit more yellowish, reddish. I think it works really well on this, especially on this white hotel. I think it's actually very convincing as a sunset. So yeah, there's some other cool rides here. There's a little roller coaster here on the roof. The really compact layout. Some interesting supports as well. There's also a shoestring ride here, I believe. So yeah, it also looks quite cool. And also here there's this swinging ride that goes above the water. One thing that I didn't really like about the park was these pillars for this balcony, for this plaza, they're really cool. But as you may be able to see, they're very, very glitchy. So yeah, this probably could have been done a little bit better. Maybe by reordering these elements with the tile inspector. Maybe lowering the ground a bit, but when the glitching is this bad, you should really do something about it, because this is really jarring to look at, in my opinion. So yeah, you should really be careful with that. But yeah, also the front of the hotel, I think it's all pretty cool. So yeah, great job on this interesting Ferris wheel. Alright, here we have the Ferris wheel entry from Wouter, a newcomer on my Discord. So yeah, he made this really interestingly shaped Ferris wheel, kind of like the one in the previous entry. By the way, if you're looking like how can a Ferris wheel of this shape rotate, there's a Ferris wheel like this in Japan as well. So basically, it's just an oblong shaped track which the cars drive on. So the track itself does not rotate, just the cars. But that's also called a Ferris wheel. So yeah, the building, this building at least, that's quite an interesting shape. And I really like how the Ferris wheel is situated inside it. Also, I really like the colors of the Ferris wheel. The colors are chosen really well. Now on top of the building there's also this really interesting ride. It's called Sky Scream. So yeah, basically it's a ride here on a track, just like the one on the Stratosphere Tower in Las Vegas. It dips down a bit and then it returns back to the station. It's actually shoestringed. The other part of the car is somewhere here in the building, and while this one goes down, the other car goes vertically upwards. Well, yeah, it's a bit difficult to explain. You should probably just download the park for yourself from my Discord server, and then you can check how it works for yourself. But yeah, it's actually very interesting. It's shoestringed, and you can see it go again here. Well, yeah, if you want to look for yourself how this works, just download the park and check out the other half of the train inside the building. And hopefully maybe you will understand it. So yeah, this building and the Ferris wheel and the Sky Scream ride were definitely the highlights of the park for me. For me, the downsides of the park were this bridge. The bridge looks really strange in my opinion. I'm not really sure what to think of it. And probably this color red with the gray is probably not really a good choice. Maybe some more bright red would have been better, and maybe the support work, in my opinion, could have also been done a little bit better. Also, the other buildings in the park, they just don't do it for me. They're very blocky, and probably they could have benefited from a more interesting shape. This building probably could have used maybe some actual windows, or something that just looks a bit more like actual windows. But yeah, overall, the building in the middle here is great, and I love the Ferris wheel on it. Alright, we have arrived at the top 10. This entry was made by Mulpje. Just like Mulpje's coaster in the last entry. That one also had great landscaping, and this entry is no exception. The landscaping in this park is absolutely beautiful, and most people who voted absolutely loved these bridges, and I fully agree with that. The architecture and scenery on these bridges is just awesome. Yeah, here's a bigger one, and here's a smaller bridge. Those lead up to this castle here on top with the Ferris wheel. So yeah, I think that's just that's absolutely beautiful. Also, I really like how the entry to the park is done here. So yeah, the middle part of the park entrance was kept, but the rest was just replaced or made invisible and then replaced with these castle towers. And I think that's a great combination. Also, I think these flags from the expansions they work great on top of this of these castle towers. You see that more here. Here's some more of these castle towers. They all have the flags on top. I think that's a great combination. Now, for this Ferris wheel, I actually like how it's constructed, except for the bent spokes. But yeah, I already commented that I didn't really like those in the previous entries. One thing that's a bit of a strange choice for me is why these spokes are made like this. So it's more of a classic Ferris wheel where the spokes would normally rotate, so it would not be the cars rotating around the track. but the bottom spoke actually extends through the building, so it would actually not be able to rotate. So yeah, a bit of a weird choice for me, because yeah, Ferris wheel looks like it was constructed to be rotating, but it wouldn't be able to. So yeah, kind of a weird choice, I think. Other than that, there's this twister roller coaster here with a big loop, which travels through and around the mountain here a few times. I think it actually looks quite nice, and these support for the loop are also quite interesting. Alright, here in 9th place we have the entry made by Mackett. Yeah, Mackett made a big pier here. It's called Santa Mecca Pier, and yeah, to me this immediately reminds me of the Santa Monica Pier in Los Angeles. So yeah, also this one has a big yellow coaster with 2 simple spirals, just like the real thing. And this one also has a small Ferris wheel here. Mackett said he just wanted to build something that looked very realistic, and Ferris wheel is also very down to earth. I must say the Ferris wheel is really small, so yeah, many people actually rated it lowly because of that. But I actually really like the way this Ferris wheel looks. It may be small, but I think it's executed really well. But yeah, it's not really a big eye catcher, which is something that many other parks did have. What is very eye-catching to me is actually how these buildings look. I really like the way these buildings look, and I also like the way these roofs are done. These roofs are actually made with pizza stalls. It's not something you see very often, but I think it's executed really well here, and just a really nice mix of scenery, track texture, rides. So yeah, that's really something that Mackett is really strong at, making all these nice looking buildings. Also the pier, I think it looks really nice. It's a mix of these invisible queue paths, which still show the supports, and some actually wooden planks. My favorite part of this park is actually this building over here. So yeah, it's a really cool lighthouse. It actually has this coaster car going around, which acts as the big light on top, which rotates. Also, you can see some windows here that were actually made with igloo entrances. Now, how often do you see that with glass put in front? So yeah, just a really incredible mix of ride entrances, shops, stalls to create all these different really cool buildings. So yeah, once again, great work from Mackett. But yeah, a little bit lower score than usual, probably because Mackett held back on the Ferris wheel a bit. But still, awesome park. Now here we have the entry from Tim Burbank, and damn, this Ferris wheel is amazing. I just love how Tim made this big pyramid over here. This park actually has, I think it has a healthy mix of normal scenery and scenery from the expansions. But yeah, this pyramid, I think it looks awesome. So it's mostly made of wooden coaster track with some other track pieces on top and some car ride stuff. The Ferris wheel, I think it looks absolutely amazing. So it's big, circular, but also has an inside track. It's hard to make one of these inside tracks actually look nice. Usually you see a bit of a gap at the place where the vertical parts overlap, but Tim actually he took care of that with these two rotating pieces which wrap around each other. I think that's really clever. So I really like the shape of the inside of this wheel with this eye in the middle. This is just amazing. So yeah, I really love this pyramid. It's really nice to see Tim Burbank improve in all these different contests. Now I also really like these power lines. They're made with chairlift track, but they're actually connected here with little pieces of mini suspended coaster, which have a support. That's also really clever. I absolutely love this tower that was made with roto-drop cars that are in test mode. It just it just adds some awesome movement to the car, to the park. Yeah, some other really nice buildings here as well. Actually, a helicopter parked in front here, also made with different track sections. I think Mon Maria's made one like this the first time in one of his parks. I've seen people recreate this several times, and I think it looks amazing. And there's actually this coaster train going around here underground. It's called Cogwheel. That's also a really neat trick. So yeah, just a park full of neat tricks. Well, yeah, I actually held back a bit on scoring this higher, because even though there's all these neat tricks, one thing the park doesn't have is any elevation changes. So yeah, it's actually mostly just completely flat, and it's mostly just covered in rock. Having a mix of landscapes and a little bit of elevation changes here and there usually massively improves the look of your park. Probably some height changes would have made it even more awesome. But I must say, I was really surprised by this entry, and this Ferris wheel here in the middle and all the little buildings around it are absolutely amazing. Great job. Alright, here we have the entry from Phoenix Wing 101. Phoenix Wing made this roller coaster. Well, this green roller coaster here on the side is a triple launch roller coaster, and the coaster actually travels through the center of this spokeless wheel. So yeah, I think the wheel is executed quite nicely. I do think it looks a little bit flat. That may be because of the part in the middle, which is really difficult to actually make in a nice circular shape. But yeah, I think overall this park really works. The jungle setting is done quite nicely. I really like the way all the trees and plants here were done. I think the jungle trees and plants are actually done in quite convincing way, and they usually mix really well with these temple pieces. So yeah, the coaster travels through a few of these temple sections, and I think that looks really great. Yeah, just all combines really well, and of course the interaction between this coaster and the Ferris wheel is really nice. Also, I really like the support work done on this Ferris wheel. Also, actually travels through this building. So yeah, this is just awesome work from Phoenix Wing. Other than that, there's also this shoestring ride here, which is also quite interesting. They're timed quite well, and it's just a really fun ride to look at. Alright, here we have the entry that got 6th place. This one was made by Shen Kitchen. This is a really interesting Ferris wheel. I think it's the only one that used the monorail cars, and yeah, I actually really like the way this one looks. Well, this entry was one of my favorites from the round. Shen Kitchen always uses these really crazy palettes. Maybe I can show you. So let's open one of these. Yeah, a lot of the colors are actually in weird places, or are completely different than they usually are. But I actually really like this shade of green and red, and yeah, these colors are really well, yeah, colorful. They're bright, they're playful, and I think that shows in this park. I absolutely love this mix of colors on this Ferris wheel. So the different shades of brown and yellow, they work together really well. So yeah, also in the last contest, the wooden coaster contest, Shen Kitchen also made a wooden coaster, also with well, lots of different shades of brown that which work together really well, I think. So these buildings, I think they're fantastic. There's lots of track texture here. Well, there's lots of extra rides, monorail pieces, lots of different heights. Yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite entries. Also, absolutely love this building over here. There's also some security guards who are stationed here, who are frozen in place. I recently made a tutorial on how to freeze your staff in place to give effects like these. I think this is executed really well. I just absolutely love the little gardens placed in between. Yeah, there's just so much cool stuff in this park to look at. Something that you'll see often in Shen Kitchen's parks, well, at least something I saw in this entry and the last one, is these awnings in front of the building, or rails in front of the building, made with monorail track. And yeah, I think this is just a really nice looking thing that I haven't seen anyone else do yet in front of their buildings. It's just all these little tricks that really make this one of my favorite entries. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to entries from Shen Kitchen in future contests. These are always amazing to look at. So great job. Alright, here we have the entry from Mamma Ria's. Well, this is completely different from anything else in this contest. So yeah, again a launched coaster here. But of course, what is the eye catcher in this park is this big, what's it called? The Sky Spirit hoop. So yeah, I think it's one of these, what's it called? Dream catcher, something like that. Not really sure. But it's really cool. I think Mamma Ria is also the only one who used the monorail cycles for his Ferris wheel. I really like watching the guests go around this wheel. Well, yeah, they're a bit inside of these, between these two tracks, but I think it looks really cool to watch them go around it. Also, these decorations, they're just top notch. So yeah, they really look like strings hanging from it, with these feathers as decorations and these beads. I just absolutely love the way this looks. Absolutely great. The rest of the park also looks really nice. These buildings, they're quite simple, made with just with base blocks and these medieval windows, some doors, also with wood behind them, some ladders. But yeah, it's just a really great combination of scenery. It's executed, yeah, really well. It just shows that you don't always have to do really, yeah, really difficult stuff with your scenery in order to make something that actually looks really nice. Also, the palette in this entry, I think it works really well. I really like this color red. Yeah, it's actually the bright red, but I think it works really well here. And there's also this really nice tan color, which you see here on the top spin. It's also a color you normally cannot get with your scenery, but yeah, it's really nice to have in your park. And this palette also gives the paths a really nice color. That's the color of the path. Oh no, it's actually just the ground color, I think. But yeah, I think everything here works quite well. So yeah, once again a really good entry from Mamma Ria's. He actually also blackened out part of the park. So yeah, that's just a convenient way to make your park a little bit smaller without you needing to actually build something there. So yeah, great entry. Alright, and in fourth place we have this entry from Ayrtont. Well, of course, the first thing that draws your attention is this big kraken, which is completely destroying the park. Well, it has its tentacles all throughout the buildings and the ship, and even through the Ferris wheel of the park. I just love how this tentacle actually passes through the Ferris wheel. What some people complained about was that this last part actually clips through the Ferris wheel. Probably this would have been enough. But yeah, that's just a minor nitpick. I do think the Ferris wheel looks really nice. I really like the support structure under it, and the color choice on it also works really well. I just love the color of these spokes and the platform under it. The wheel is nice, circular shaped. So yeah, really well executed, and of course this boat is done incredibly well. Yeah, you don't often see nice boats like this. There's even a little entertainer frozen here at the steering wheel. It's Captain Deurklink. I approve of that. Some really nice buildings here throughout the entry. Again, you can simply download all these entries from my Discord server. I put a link in the contest archive, and then you can see all these entries for yourself. There's just a lot to discover here. Probably haven't even discovered anything here. So also after making this video, I will go back to this park and just take in everything at my own pace, and I think you should do the same. Now, one thing that held people back from scoring it even higher, well, the thing most people complained about a bit was the really bright color of the water. Probably with a different watercolor, the different palette, it probably would have been a little bit nicer. But overall, really nice entry, and this Kraken is amazing. Okay, here we have the entry from Heiko. Heiko always makes really nice entries, and this one is no exception. I mean, the landscaping is beautiful. I love how you can see the side of this mountain here with the Ferris wheel in front. It just frames it perfectly. There's this really cool bridge here which goes to this building here on the side. Yeah, just really nice elevation changes here, and the buildings are they're situated in a great way with these elevation changes in mind. I love how you could walk here from the lowest section here to the highest, and yeah, this Mackett actually commented that he would love to have lunch in this somewhere in this park, and I fully agree with that. I just love all these little terraces or plazas right next to the water with all these tables and eating places. This area is called the Seafood Lounge. You can see all these people going around here on these canoes. There's just so many nice looking buildings. So yeah, building wise, this is absolutely one of my favorite entries. These buildings are all really nice and interesting to look at. So yeah, if you're making a park and you want to make nice looking buildings, you could definitely use this park as an example. It's just a really nice mix of actually usually pretty basic scenery, but it all works together really well. The Ferris wheel itself, it also looks really nice. It's a big eye catcher, of course, in the park. There's a really nice structure. So yeah, it's a lot less architecture heavy than most entries. These spokes are all made with scenery, with these poles and wooden post fences. And yeah, I think it's nice and refreshing to see someone use scenery instead of architecture. Of course, for the supports, track pieces are actually used. But yeah, this is really a very nice entry and a well-deserved third place. Now we get to the park with second place, and damn, I already thought maybe someone would try to recreate the the Studio City Hotel in Macau, but Hank the Super Nerd actually went around and actually did it. I mean, damn, this must have caused quite a headache to actually build this huge building. So yeah, if you're wondering, this building actually exists. It's called Studio City. It's placed in Macau. You should go look it up. It actually has a Ferris wheel in the facade of the building in the form of a figure eight. Now, it actually goes around quite fast, but usually there's not much you can do about that. So yeah, you can actually see all these diagonal glass windows here. They're not actually diagonal, but Hank just used perspective tricks to make it look like they're diagonal. I can quickly show you an example here. For example, if we place two glass windows like this. So these are straight glass windows, but we can actually slope them with a tile inspector. So this one now has the right side up, this one now has the left side up, and now they actually look like diagonal glass paints. So that's also what was used here for all these windows. It must have been quite a headache to make all these glass windows look like this. I think also the shape of the building actually helps make it look convincing, because here you can see these glass windows from the side actually, and yeah, here if you look carefully here you can see they're not actually diagonal, but it's only visible from some angles, and most of it is not actually visible. So yeah, the actual building doesn't have a coaster also coming from the side, but I think Hank actually managed to do that quite well, and I think it works in a great way to make this building look even more interesting. So yeah, this is just a great looking entry, and this must have taken a long time to build and to make it look right. So I can only applaud Hank the Super Nerd for creating an awesome entry like this. So yeah, amazing work on second place for this contest. So all that's left now is to go check out the winner of the contest. Alright, and here we have the winner of the contest. This entry was made by Skifa, and damn, this the last entry was amazing with the Studio City, but this one, I think this one really takes the cake. I mean, these buildings are all amazing. It's a really cool, nice looking Arabic style. It's not something you see often in these contests. This palace building is absolutely amazing. I also love this dome here on top. I think more people should try to make these dome buildings. The shape of this building is absolutely awesome. A really nice mix of normal scenery and expansion scenery. Just nice, interesting stuff everywhere. Again, you should really download this entry and take a look at it yourself, just to take in everything at your own pace. There's just nice stuff to discover everywhere. I absolutely love the colors in this park. This white, yellow, the dark red, and this aqua blue, they all mix really well in my opinion. Now, of course, then we get to the Ferris wheel, and damn, this Ferris wheel absolutely has an amazing shape. It's unlike any Ferris wheel we saw in this round. It's a very unusual shape, but I just love the way how it's executed. There's these 3D cinemas here on the side, which it rotates around, and I actually think it looks really convincing. There's also this awesome support structure, a really nice mix of track texture, scenery, and it just looks good from every angle. There's these cogwheels also, which add lots of motion. This is just such a nice entry to look at. So yeah, really worthy of the first place in this contest. Go download it for yourself and check out this entry, because it's just so awesome. Alright, those were all 22 entries of the custom Ferris wheel contest. Let me quickly disable the rain. This park probably doesn't need any rain since it looks Arabic. I really loved all the entries in this round, especially the ones that scored in the top 10. A new contest will be announced in several days. If you want to join one of these contests, you can just look at the announcement video on my YouTube channel. I usually also copy and paste it to Reddit, and you can also find the announcement and the rules on my Discord server. So yeah, if you want to join any of these contests, you have to become a member on my Discord server. It's completely free. You can see Discord as a chat service where you can talk with other players, other people who play this game, and well, yeah, from there you can also download entries and join these contests. Everything is explained on my Discord server. The link to my Discord server can be found in my the video description. Anyway, that was all for this video. I hoped you enjoyed watching these entries. I hope you will download them and watch them for yourself. And yeah, I hope to see you join in one of the next contests. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you again in the next one. See you later!